Have you guys seen the trailer for the new Watchmen movie? They're making a new one. I shouldn't even ask that question. Did you guys know that they're making a new Watchmen movie? I saw it the other day, and quite frankly, I'm not that interested. Is that the common opinion? I've seen a lot of people talking about it. They're saying, oh, they're animating it in the same style as they're animating X-Men 97, which they're using as a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing. I've seen the animation for X-Men 97, and quite frankly, I think it's boring. It's boring in that it's just 3D assets, and you have the 3D assets, they're moving around and they're doing all these things. I don't think that's the greatest animation I've ever seen. I think that they took that from the Marvel What If series, and that series, I looked at the animation and I thought, well, this looks cheap, this looks poorly done, this looks phoned in. Am I alone on that? I thought that was the general consensus. Apparently I'm not in the general consensus of things, which I'm not usually, but for this one I thought I was. And so people are very impressed by X-Men 97, which, by the way, I never watched the X-Men cartoon initially, as it was. I never watched that one. I didn't understand the hype behind it. And when they said they were rebooting it, I thought, well, they're rebooting everything. They can't make a new original X-Men series based on the comic books, based on the characters. No, actually, they have to make a new series based on a series from 30 years ago. And they're not using the same animation. As a matter of fact, they're not even using better animation. They're using cheap animation, and it's 3D, and it's the same series, but it's not, because it's different. Listen, they're using the IP to make money because it's an easier sell than saying we're making a whole brand new X-Men series and we're creating an original idea. Listen, you can pay these guys to create an original idea. As a matter of fact, they're being paid and they're not creating original ideas. Just by example. So when I see this new Watchmen trailer, you watch it and you think, okay, well, there's the shot with Dr. Manhattan, there's the one with Rorschach. But I noticed that there was a part in the trailer, and it does remind me of a panel out of the book, which is right there, by the way. It reminded me of a panel, but it looked like the panel, but with all the character taken out of it. All of the mood, all the grime inside the book is taken out of this 3D animation. Because the 3D animation looks very soulless. And I'm saying, and once again, people are praising it. Oh, look at the animation. I don't see it. Am I missing something? If I am missing something, please tell me. I would like to be informed, but I don't think I am. I think I'm seeing the same thing as everybody else, and it's not computing in my head. And so when I see these panels that they're recreating in the trailer, and everybody's getting so excited about it, I see it and I think, well, have you guys read it recently? I know a lot of people like to say they've read Watchmen. They might have read it once, they might have seen the movie, they might have heard somebody talk. It's like 1984, George Orwell. A lot of people, oh, well, 1984, I have these opinions on it, and these ones, but they didn't actually read the entire book. And I think that's very important, because if you didn't read the book, how can you have opinions? Well, because I watched this guy's video on it, and this guy said 1984 is happening now, and it's neither here nor there, but a lot of people have a lot of opinions on Watchmen. It's solidified itself within the culture, the iconography, the characters, the writing style. Every new comic book writer, ever since Alan Moore put out Watchmen, wanted to be Alan Moore, despite the fact that, like I said before, Alan Moore doesn't want to be himself, which I think is absolutely hilarious. I can't blame the guy. There are times I don't want to be myself, but wanting to be somebody who doesn't want to be themselves, there's something about that just that makes me laugh a little bit. And so watching this movie trailer, I just think, well, if you're taking all the character out of Watchmen, the character that was from Dave Gibbons' art and the very flat color palette that came with it, you're taking all the character out, you're taking all of the things that made Watchmen work, and that was the original design, the artistic direction, because if there was a different artist on Watchmen, it would have been a completely different book. Dave Gibbons was the perfect artist for Watchmen. You're getting a 3D style that simply doesn't replicate what Dave Gibbons was doing with the pen and paper. It just doesn't. If you've seen Watchmen Noir, the black and white version of the book, it's beautiful. The line work so beautiful. You can't get that with 3D animation. I remember that there was a Batman series that utilized 3D animation back in the day, and the biggest critique of that series was it's 3D animation. It's not as good as the 2D stuff. You don't get the painted in backgrounds. You don't get the same characters you get with the two-dimensional animation, the traditional animation. And so I watch a little bit more of the trailer. And I think, well, wait a minute. There was a Watchmen movie maybe 20 years ago. Zack Snyder made it. So I look into that a little bit. I've seen that movie before. I enjoyed the movie. I watched it about 3 or 4 years ago. It's been a while, in fairness, since I have seen the movie all the way through. But I think Zack Snyder did a really good job at capturing the grimy, gritty, almost ugly in nature. I say ugly artistically. You have to understand, using these words, you could say ugly, you could say weird, you could say any litany of words that would otherwise be spun as a negative connotation. I don't think that's the case. I think good artwork can be ugly and beautiful, and ugly artwork can be beautiful because it's ugly on purpose. Do you guys follow me? I hope I'm not losing anybody here. But he made it ugly. When you had the close-ups on Rorschach's mask and the ink was moving around in it, you see the fibers sticking out. You see that it's this raggedy homeless person wearing this mask. You hear the rasp in his voice when he takes off the mask and he yells at Dr. Manhattan at the end to just do it. He's ugly, as he should be. He's a broken man by the end of the story who is not compromising in the face of Armageddon, a point that he made very early on in the story. And he knows that he's going to get killed. He knows he's going to get killed by his friends. And a part of him may even know that he may not be doing the right thing in that situation. He's so conflicted. That's what you call beautiful storytelling. And the fact that he was able to adapt that into a movie format the same way that he did, if you look at the panel in the comic books, he's crying, he's drooling snot going into his mouth. It's ugly. Rorschach is an ugly character, and that's why people love him. I always think that the people who criticize Rorschach are a little weird. It's like, no, he's supposed to be ugly. That's his charm. His charm is that he is abnormal. His charm is that he is ugly. I mean, just to put it as simple as I could put it. So I think, so they're making this new movie, which is split into two parts because they need to cash in as much as they can. And we could debate all day long about the animation, about this. Let's put this to rest. This is a cash grab. This is the easiest cash grab that they can make in the midst of all these reboots and recreations and rehashes and re-this and re-that and cheap animation and cheap reboots. This is a cash grab. That's why they're making it two parts. Zack Snyder did it in one. These are going to do it in two. And it's not even going to look as good. Which, by the way, I mean, comic books as a medium are a visual medium. You're going to make a movie that looks worse than the book. I mean, what are you doing? You're trying to make a quick buck is what you're doing. So I'm just thinking about this movie, and if we approach it from a more honest, from a more genuine direction as a fan, as somebody who may watch it, I'm not going to watch it, by the way. Well, how can we approach it a little bit more genuinely? Okay, well, they're making this movie, it's going to be animated. Well, you could do more with animation. Well, they're not. It doesn't seem like they are. I should say it doesn't seem, as the movie hasn't come out yet. We've only had a couple trailers that give us the hits of the book, the big Dr. Manhattan scene, the Rorschach scene, the Jupiter scene, a little bit of the scene on Mars. So in fairness, we haven't seen a lot of it. We cannot say for certain whether it's going to be better, worse, or on par. I just don't think it's going to add anything. I think that it's not going to add anything that the original movie hasn't already done to the series. I think it's just going to be a cheap animation that they're going to say, look, we have this cool cheap animation, sell a ton of box sets, make a ton of money, quick and easy with an old existing property. And that's always my question, is what is this going to do that has not been done before, that can add to the mythos, that can add to the characters, that can add to the experience of this? Well, the acting in the original movie was great. You had great actors doing it. I mean, the Rorschach performance across the board was just good. So you're not going to get that same performance. I'm not sure who the voice actors are, but I take it you're not going to get that same performance. You're not going to get the same gritty feel as we've seen from the trailer. If the trailer is anything to be gone off of, then yeah, no, we're not going to get the same gritty feel. Okay, well, we're not going to get the nice details on all the characters, the nice cross-hatching because it's 3D animation, so you just plain out can't get that. So what are we going to get that we don't already have in the original movie? And I understand that there's a lot of controversy around the original movie. I say controversy very lightly. People just don't like it. Like I said, I watched it through and through. I watched it with a friend through and through. We both liked it. We both enjoyed it. We enjoyed the characters. We enjoyed the experience. When I look at what people didn't like about that movie, it always boils down to Zack Snyder. His name is at the bottom of it. Oh, Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder. I think, well, it sounds like you have more of a personal beef with this director than you have with the movie itself, whenever all criticism can be boiled down to, well, it's a Zack Snyder film. Well, what about the movie itself? What was bad about the movie? What could have been done better that this movie would have been to your liking? You never really get that. I know that some things were changed. It was a nuke in New York instead of the giant alien. It's more palatable for theater audiences. But I think as a whole, I think the movie did its job. It did what it was supposed to do. And you just have a personal beef with Zack Snyder. That's fine. But how is this movie going to be any better? I simply don't think it is. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. How is this movie going to be any better than the live action one? And if anything, is it going to add anything to the comic book experience? Because I personally just think it's a cash grab. Am I wrong here? You guys let me know.